What's up, my fellow small business supporters? I'm Savvy and welcome back to Savvy Writes Books. Happy Monday. Today I have a video for you guys that has been highly requested multiple times over the past couple months. I am getting ready to release my 10th book ever. As many of you also know, the 9 previous books that I put out were all self-published, and all of them were kind of self-published in different ways. But this 10th book is going to be completely different because it is going to be my first traditional publishing experience. A lot of us in the author community talk all the time about traditional publishing, self-publishing, hybrid publishing, all these different paths to getting your books and your work out there. And after someone has experienced multiple different avenues to publishing and to getting their work out there for the public, people want to know, what are the differences? What are some things that you saw in each process that you liked, that you didn't like? How did each of those experiences compare to one another? And that's why today I am here to tell you guys about my traditional publishing experience versus my self-publishing experience, how each one was similar, how each one was different, what I learned, and what I'm planning to take away from the future. So let's do it.
Get you some nuts.
There was lots of memes.
Makes me wonder if I should take up lesbianism.
Chicago. You guys asked for it.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, welcome here for the first time. I'm Savvy, and on my channel, Savvy Writes Books, we talk about books and business. Every Monday and Friday at 11 a.m. Central, I put out new videos, so please don't forget to subscribe. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my second channel, Your Morning Guru, linked in the description below, which now has reached 1,000 subscribers. Super exciting, but on that channel, that is kind of my live stream and podcast channel where my friend RK and I spend every morning at 8 a.m. Central. We live as various business gurus. We read their books, we review business books and self-help books and that kind of thing. We live various people's lives and see what we can learn and take away from it. And we also host a weekly writing stream on Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. Central, where you'll see my 11th book that's coming out, which is coming out in August, called Cancel Sean Boston. You get to see us working on that book and getting that book ready to release right before your eyes. So a lot of you guys may know that in less than a month, my novel 90s Kids is going to be out there in the world. If you've been with me on this channel from the very beginning, back to when I had the huge big hair back in 2018, you've been seeing me write this from the very beginning, from the first drafting to the revising and everything, and I love that I've been taking you guys on this journey with me. What's fun is that in my AuthorTube newbie tag, like 2.5 years ago in that video, I was like, well, I usually self-publish, but for 90s Kids, I might consider traditional publishing, and that's literally exactly what happened. If you guys need a little recap, I have my book 90s Kids coming out on June 8th, 2021. The ebook is currently available for pre-order, so take a look at that in the description below. I have a playlist of videos all about this book, including the cover design process, what that was like, my revision process, my announcement of getting this book publishing contract, and all of that. So that playlist is linked up in the cards. But yes, the book is now available for pre-order on the ebook. The paperback and hardcover versions will be available very soon, so stay tuned for an announcement on that as well. But this book's coming out June 8th, 2021. We will have a live stream launch party here on the channel on that date. I want to make it clear that my traditional publishing experience is with a small press, so it's going to be a little bit different than someone that publishes with a big 5 or Big 4 now, I guess, publishing houses. I didn't go through the traditional process of querying an agent, getting representation from an agent, having the agent sell the book to a large company then giving me an advance and working with my agent like that. I didn't do that process. Instead, I worked directly with a small press. So I still got some of those elements of self-publishing, elements of being involved in the entire creative process and wonderful things like that. But I did get a lot of those good traditional publishing elements, including not having to make any financial investment up front, which is, I think, probably everyone's favorite part of the traditional publishing process. So let's start there with the biggest difference between the traditional publishing process and the self-publishing process. When you do something traditionally published, you do not take on any financial risk. Every book that I self-published previously, I was responsible for every part of bringing that book into existence. Whether I was going to pay for a cover designer, which actually, until Cancel Sean Boston, I never did pay for a cover designer. I've always done my covers myself. But if you're someone who wants to pay for a cover design, you want to get a professional cover designer to work on your book, when you're self-publishing, you are going to have to incur all those costs yourself. When you're getting traditionally published, your publisher will be paying that cover designer, or your publisher may have an in-house cover designer that they work with, but you as the author will will not be spending anything upfront on that. However, that comes with then the downside to traditional publishing, which is that you do not keep 100% of the profits. You will get paid a royalty from your publisher where they are taking a percentage of the profits and you are taking a percentage of the profits. Versus when you're self-publishing, you pay those costs up front, but then once you're selling the book, all of the profit belongs to you. You don't have to share it with anyone else. I think that's kind of the biggest key difference that everybody knows going into this process. I will say from my personal experience, I really did like getting to work with a professional cover designer. In the past, I've always had a lot of fun doing my own covers. Now, to be clear, even my self-publishing experiences have been very different from one another. I'll compare two very different things right here for you guys. My most recent self-published work was Savvy Business Owner, which was my nonfiction business self-help book that I put out this past September. Contrast that with my Forever Home Friends series, which has 5 of my books in it, which is my own business that I started up and run myself, which is a series of books, plushies, toys, and merch based on real rescue dogs and their journeys to adoption. So even though both of those sets of books are self-published, they were done so in very different ways. When I was self-publishing Forever Home Friends, it was less of a self-publishing process about, well, I want to have creative control of the book itself, and more about building an entire brand and an entire business where the books are one product along with the plushies being a product, along with the merch being a product and things like that. I create those books, I oversee that entire process because they're part of a company that I own. Versus with Savvy Business Owner, that was a book that I also self-published, but I did that in the print-on-demand style kind of way where you lay out a file yourself, you take on all of that risk, you upload it to KDP, or I guess you don't have to use KDP, you could use Ingram Spark for distribution, you could use Lulu, there are a bunch of options, and this video isn't really a self-publishing instructional video, there are plenty of videos on that on the internet. That was kind of the process I used for that, whereas with Forever Home Friends, I order stock of the book printed to get shipped to my house, where I then sign the books, I package them up with the plushies or with merch or with other orders and do nice packaging for people and send those books out as a product with those other things. So 2 types of the self-publishing process, but done in completely different ways. So even that itself is not similar to how in the traditional publishing process, that's not a monolith either. I don't have an agent, for example. I'm not working with a big company like Simon & Schuster or HarperCollins or something like that. I'm working with a small press, which you guys know I'm all about because I'm wearing the small business dinosaur shirt. Support small businesses. This channel is all about the small business support. And you guys know in particular, I love to support other women in business. If you haven't already, you can join my Facebook group called The Real Boss Babes, which is a Facebook group not just for women in business, for anyone in business, but for small business owners to connect and uplift one another. But I was grateful to work with a woman-owned small press on my book, and that press is called Muse Media. I will link all of their stuff in the description below. But that whole kind of rant there leads into the second thing that I wanted to talk about with the different experiences I've had with traditional publishing versus self-publishing, which is that with my traditional publishing experience, I had set industry professionals that I was working with from the beginning. So as you guys will see on my channel on June 8th when we launch 90s Kids and I have the launch party on this channel, my publisher Christine will be here with me and she and I will talk a little bit about everything about her process of starting up a publishing company and all of that. But she actually first began in magazine publishing back in 2007. So she was involved in the magazine publishing world for a really long time and was editor-in-chief of a magazine, has been publishing her own magazines and things like that. And then only in 2019 started to say, you know what, let's go into books. And then in 2020 started making the books division of her overall publishing company come to life from there. One of the benefits for me is that I got to work with her on bringing this book to life. And she is someone who has over a decade of publishing industry and business running experience. So I got to work with her as an industry professional. Beyond that, she also hired a second editor to work on the developmental edits of my book, in addition to her doing line edits and things like that. And she had connections with layout artists and cover designers and all of that because of her long-term work in this industry. So I got to work with a professional layout artist to do that. I had a professional cover designer work on my cover. Again, up in the cards, check out the videos on the cover design process. Today, we're living in something that many people refer to as the gig economy. The idea that a lot of us are taking on a lot more freelance work and aren't necessarily always going into salaried positions right away. A lot of us are taking on multiple freelance jobs instead. The fact is, a lot of publishing industry professionals do freelance work as well. So even if you are self-publishing, if you want to hire those people to work on your book, you can often find a lot of established professionals with a lot of years of experience to work on your book as well. But again, keep in mind that you will be paying their prices for that, and that will be your financial responsibility as the author. So just something to weigh in your mind when you're working on that. From my many years working in the self-publishing world and also getting to know a lot of other independent authors, a very common reason I hear that people want to self-publish is for retaining creative control of the entire process. So that's going to be the next big difference that I talk about, which is who controls the final work. Again, I'm working with a small press. With a big press, this might be a completely different type of thing, but I will say that in working with a small press, it has been a very collaborative process. However, I am not the only person in charge of everything in this process like I have been with my self-publishing experiences. When I wrote the book Savvy Business Owner and put that out into the world, if someone said to me, hey Savvy, I think this part should be different, or I want you to change this part, because that book was completely mine and no one else was taking on any financial risk for it, I could take their advice if I thought it was good, but I would be under no obligation to. Similar with Forever Home Friends, when I put those books together, I am the one who has the final say on every single thing about them. On the other hand, when I am working as an author with a publisher, my publisher and my editor's advice holds a lot more weight, and I am under more of an obligation to make those edits and to change the book to something that they want to financially invest in and they think will sell. Now, working with a small press, I have never really felt pressured to change things that I didn't want to, or I never felt like you have to change this or else or anything like that. Like I said, with a small press, it's a lot of Zoom meetings, it's a lot of phone calls, it's a lot of talking one-on-one and getting that knowledge from each other and having those big conversations and working out to find the best solution for everyone. However, there definitely is an element of, okay, Savvy, we're editing this book. I think you need to make all of these changes. And if I had hired my own editor as a self-published author, yes, I would still want somebody to give me feedback and I would still want to get those changes. But if at the end of the day, I didn't want to make those changes and I truly felt that the book would be better without them, I do have the final say. Whereas when working with a publisher, I don't necessarily have the exclusive final say. Now, I'm not quite sure in this particular case what would have happened if we'd had like an irreconcilable difference, right? Which we didn't have, thankfully. There was a lot of open communication in this process, which I really liked. But I definitely felt more like I should take my publisher's feedback. I should be making the changes that my publisher is requesting of me because this book isn't exclusively mine at this point. This book is also my publisher's book. My publisher's taking the risk. This is a product that my publisher is putting out, and therefore I am under an obligation to them to make it the product that they want, as well as the product that I want, as well as the product that the customer and the reader wants. So there's a little bit more of a balance there as well. However, I really did enjoy that process. I enjoyed getting to kind of let someone else have not more control, I wouldn't say that's the right word, but letting someone else have a little more authority over my work and saying, Savvy, you should restructure this sentence to sound like this, or Savvy, you should change this part of the story to be more like this or something, and for me to say, you know what, yeah, maybe I should, and then do that. So I definitely think that element was a different experience than what I was used to, but it was also a good experience, and I liked that as well. Now let's get to the big question. Which do I like better? Traditional publishing or self-publishing? And this is going to be the biggest cop-out answer of all time, but the truth is, I like them both better in different circumstances, and that's, I think, exactly what I thought was going to happen. As I've said in the past, Forever Home Friends is never going to be a book series that I work with a separate publisher on producing. That book series is always going to be published by my company because the stuffed animals are produced by my company. Even though they're not like I don't run a manufacturing company, but I also don't own my own printing press, so the products are physically made in other factories, but you know what I'm saying. The books are published by my company, like the stuffed animals are produced by my company, like the merch is produced by my company, things like that. So that is always going what that is, and I think for running my own business and for creating my own brand and things like that, the self-publishing process is right for that. Meanwhile, for getting out a young adult novel, especially a young adult LGBT sci-fi novel with a contemporary tone to it, which I think could have wide appeal to teens and adults alike, I think the traditional publishing process was a great way to go for this, at least from what I'm seeing so far, because of having a publisher publisher to get those press releases sent out for me, to do some marketing for me, even though, you know, I've been doing a lot of promotion myself as well. Like I said, small press. So I've been doing a lot of promotion on my YouTube channel and things like that as well. But I think that that process and working with industry professionals on a book that I think could have widespread appeal, I think was a good choice for this particular book. What am I going to do in the future? Honestly, I'm going to do more of everything in the future. You guys know I'm a person who's really open to trying lots of different processes constantly, and my plan right now is that if I ever write a sequel to 90s Kids, it is absolutely going to come out through the same publisher. One, because in my contract I did sign that that publisher has first right of refusal on that, so I would, you know, be required to pitch it to them first before anything else. So I probably would work with the same publisher on a sequel or another book set within that same universe if I ever did write something for that, which I haven't yet, but maybe in the future, if people like this, maybe I will. Thinking of another book that I have coming out very shortly after 90s Kids, which is Cancel Sean Boston. That book is perfect for the self-publishing process because that book was kind of a community effort in a way. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, that book is being co-written by me and fellow author RK Gold. He and I actually run the Your Morning Guru podcast together, and that book has been a novel we've been working on together for a year exclusively on live streams. We haven't done any work for it outside of live streams. And because of that, we've had audience members chime in with like, ooh, this would be kind of cool, or hey, can you name a character after me? And we also ended up hiring one of our audience members who just started up her own copy editing business. We ended up hiring her to edit the book, and then we hired another one of our audience members who is also an AuthorTuber. Her name's Keelan Rivers. A lot of you guys probably know her. She's fantastic. We hired her to do our cover design because she just started up the cover designing business. So this book has been kind of a community effort in that sense, and now we have a lot of people who are viewers of ours who are invested in that book, and so it just seems like it's best to keep that book being produced by us. And, you know, as we haven't hired people outside of, you know, the people who have been with us from the beginning on this book. So I think that that book makes sense to do with the self-publishing process just because of what the audience is expecting, and because it's kind of a new adult romance parody, internet humor. It's such a genre crossover that I don't even know how I would pitch it to a publisher and that kind of thing. I don't even have any comp titles for it. And that was the thing with 90s Kids, was I had a lot of comp titles for it. I was like, this book has elements of An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green, elements of Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, elements of A Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, elements of Back to the Future, elements of Star Trek. And then eventually I just condensed it all and was like, it's lesbian Back to the Future. So that is 90s Kids. Again, it is linked in the description below. I guess I didn't give a quick plot summary of it, but if you want to know what it's about, it's lesbian Back to the Future. No, but it is about two girls born at opposite ends of the 90s, one born in 1990, one born in 1999. One turned 16 in 2006, one turned 16 in 2015, and both of them go to take their driver's license test when they turn 16. At the DMV, a time travel accident happens because there's been secretly a time portal hiding at the DMV this whole time. They both get sent back to 1989, where they meet and fall in love and have an 80s romantic adventure together. So that's what this book is about. If that sounds fun to you like it does to me, literally, like, if you guys are like, Savvy is my gay aunt from the 80s and you needed a gay aunt from the 80s book, like, literally look no further. 90s Kids is linked in the description below, so go ahead and pre-order the ebook if you're interested in that. I'll give an update when hardcover and paperback orders are available. But the book is coming out on June 8th. I will have a live stream here on my channel to announce that. Again, in my pinned comment below, you will see the social media for my publisher called Muse Media. Please give them a follow on everything because tons of fun updates are coming out, and I love working with this small business. Thank you guys for watching this video. Leave a comment below and ask me if you have any other questions about the differences between traditional publishing and self-publishing and what I thought the pros and cons of each were. But that was overall just kind of my basic overview of the main things that came to mind about the differences I experienced along the way. I will see you guys tomorrow morning on the Your Morning Guru channel, or I will see you Wednesday night for the author sleepover on this channel. In the meantime though, don't forget to support small businesses and have a fantastic start to your week. Bye everyone!
Get you some nuts.
There was lots of memes.
Makes me wonder if I should take up lesbianism.
Chicago. You guys asked for it.